welcome you to Corporate Screening's 2017 webinar series. My name is Sarah Van Gilder, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at Corporate Screening. Today's webinar is called Turnaround Time, Why Isn't My Background Done? And it's presented by Tom Turner, who's here at Corporate Screening. We're both pleased to be able to present this webinar to you today. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of housekeeping before we begin the webinar. During the webinar, you're going to be muted. You'll be muted throughout, but if you do have any questions that you want us to answer, you can send them via the question box on the webinar screen. I'm going to monitor questions throughout the presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we'll hold a question and answer period. If there's anything that needs to be asked immediately, I'll get to it. Otherwise, I'm going to hold your questions until the end. So at this time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our presenter, Tom Turner. Tom's been a member of the corporate screening team since 1999, and his combination of experience, knowledge, and people skills led to his current role as Vice President, Client Services. He also still plays an active role in maintaining his own book of business as National Accounts Manager. Tom provides expertise and support to corporate screening's clients, skillfully helping them manage their background screening programs. He has successfully secured multi-year relationships with some of the country's leading manufacturing, healthcare, and technology firms. Tom also develops and manages after-sales services and works to ensure client satisfaction through a number of initiatives. He's a member of the National Association of Professional Background Screeners, or NAPBS, of which Corporate Screening is an accredited member, and he speaks regularly about background screening topics. So at this time, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Tom. Tom, it's all yours.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks to everybody for joining the webinar here today. We have a full house, which is really not surprising because everyone always wonders why some backgrounds come back so quick and then others may take a little bit longer. The truth is really there's a lot of different reasons that a background might be delayed. But I think the nice thing about our system or our service is that the system gives you the tools or the ability to view information and different elements of the background in real time. And plus you have the options of reaching out to the analyst or the case manager and asking questions through a secure messaging system on the website as well. So you have the tools in the communication, accessibility to empower you with information to help you understand what delays might be happening, if in fact they are happening at all. But that might be a webinar for another day. Today we're going to kind of focus on some of the major delays or some of the more common delays of different backgrounds, and I've narrowed them down to providing the candidate metadata, and that might include social security number, dates of birth, contact information, and so forth. Different types of criminal record searches. So with the different types of criminal record searches, you might have different causes of delays. So we'll go through a few of those. And then we'll close things out with verifications and interviews, verifications including both employment and education. Getting into the candidate metadata and what's important to provide and why it is important. So things like providing correct social security number. A lot of people don't put too much credence on the information they're always providing to us at that time of order because everybody's in a rush to get things started and so forth, and certainly we understand that. But the very first thing that we do when conducting a background is run that social security number and try to validate the person that you're asking us to conduct the background on. If we have the wrong social security number, it's good. Our system's going to tell us it's a different person, and then right from the get-go, the background gets a little bit delayed because we're trying to ferret out where the mistakes might be, and we might have to reach back out to you and so forth. Incomplete or wrong dates of birth, certainly that can delay things. A lot of criminal record searches and other verifications might not even be able to be started without a date of birth. Excuse me. So it is important to make sure that you're providing all that candidate metadata and that it's correct and legible and all that good stuff. It is important too to provide information, contact information for your candidate. If we have questions during the background, obviously our clients are a resource to us, but we want to have the ability to reach out to your candidate and maybe they can clarify a few things and help to move things along. Providing the signed release. I know a lot of clients use the integration method for ordering through their applicant tracking system, but having a signed release is always a good idea from the get-go, simply because when we're conducting employment and education verifications, we're often asked to provide a signed release, and if we have to go back for it, it can slow things down. Now, on the corporate screening client interface that you operate within all the time, we provide a number of different tools. Certainly, that CS Bridge is one of those tools. For those of you who are using the Bridge, probably right now primarily through integrations, you know that the Bridge allows for us to reach out directly to your candidate, and it allows for them to allows for us to get a mouse signature that we can recreate and often use as a substitute for, quote, that wet signature. One of the reasons why having us reach out directly to the candidate if the information is incomplete that you've supplied us with at the time of order, a lot of times those candidates are a little bit leery in getting back to us. They may not recognize our name, or they're afraid of phishing schemes and so forth. So it is so important to provide us with all that good information from the get-go, and it really helps to kick off the background in a smooth way. So then moving into the different individual causes or possible causes for delays, certainly criminal record searches can be one of those causes. And when you're looking at criminal record searches, you have three primary sources of information: court record searches, database searches, and then fingerprints. Most people, as part of their program, do have the court record search as part of their background packages. And what a lot of people don't understand is how these searches are conducted. So literally in court record searches, our team, either directly from our office or through the use of boots on the ground searchers throughout the country, are going into courts, and they're looking at a court's index and literally looking up to see if your candidate has any information at that particular court. The different courts make information available in a number of different ways. So a lot of times people wonder why background checks come back so quick and then others take a little bit longer. It might be that the court that we're in has different ways of making information available. For instance, some courts we can get right into that index, and if there's a name match, that court will provide the personal identifiers to either include or exclude your candidate. So it makes it easy for us to say, yes, in fact, this is your guy or your person, and then move forward or exclude them. The problem comes, or the delays come, when those courts maybe only have names on that public index, so that when we're searching a common name, we're going to end up getting a bunch of name matches, but we really have little more information than just that, the name match. And oftentimes we're writing down case numbers and taking those over to the clerks, asking them to pull hard copy files, and then looking through those files to see if, in fact, these name matches are for your particular candidate. And then there's another whole different set of scenarios where courts don't have a public index, but rather you have to conduct the search by initially going directly through the court's clerk, and sometimes then things are really out of your control. So you can see in just that very first slide here how there's a wide array of reasons why things might be delayed. Now, the question always is, well, how do we help to reduce turnaround times? And there's a number of different things that we've done, and we consult our clients with and helping them to streamline the process. So creating different search parameters within your protocol so that we're not having to go back to you necessarily and ask permission on the fly for, hey, this other name or this other address came up. We're just, pre-approved to run them all. Or they may say do current name, all addresses, and so forth. Plus, a lot of clients, with the EEOC guidance and EEOC kind of pushing towards overlooking instances that might be a little bit older, a lot of clients say, hey, we only want to search the most recent 7 years. In our typical search, if we see it on an index and it's legally able to be reported, we're going ahead and reporting it. But if certain clients don't want that information, then they can tell us and say, hey, we only want that most recent 7 years, and then we can move on sometimes more quickly. A lot of clients, or a lot of courts, when we're going in there, that county court might also include municipal or city information. And again, some clients say that they don't necessarily want that. So if at all you're receiving information that frankly you're not interested in looking at or in using, by all means give us a call and we can tweak your program and set those parameters up appropriately. Providing all that metadata. So again, if we go into those courts and we're searching a common name and we need to limit it down by looking at the personal identifiers and that court record itself, and we don't have anything to compare it to, such as a partial social or maybe a date of birth and addresses, middle name, whatever it is, if we don't have that to compare to, then we're having to reach back out to you and ask for it, or even reach out to the candidate. In some areas, there are courts that are incredibly low, and we see more that clients have written letters and our NEPBS has written letters to certain areas, and it has helped. I'm not going to say that it's going to help everywhere across the country, but certainly it can't hurt if you live in a particular part of the country and and believe me, you would know if there are courts that are slow. Go ahead and reach out to your county commissioner or that clerk's office. Getting into these a little bit more quickly, but database searches and fingerprint searches. So databases are just kind of an aggregate of a lot of different sources of information. What's nice about database searches is it's either in there or it's not. So it can come back a lot more quickly. It does have some downsides. So if you do end up getting a name and date of birth match, you end up having to research that information at the courts anyways, just because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and things of that nature. But that being said, I mean, database searches typically do come back pretty quick. Fingerprint searches, they're also databases, but you access them through a unique identifier from the get-go, that being the fingerprint itself. And unfortunately, those fingerprint databases are maintained and completely in control by the state agency that's operating the database search. So there's not a whole lot that you can often do to reduce those turnaround times. Getting into verifications, boy, there's again a wide array of reasons why things might be delayed when you start looking at employments and look at educations. But just thinking about the employment verification process itself, I mean, again, we're literally reaching out to the employers that your candidates have listed, and nobody ends up picking up the phone on the first time, and a few people are calling you back. So it's our persistence that ends up getting that information for you, and we're not necessarily doing what the industry typically does and making our 3 calls and bailing out on the process. But if we're making headway and we found the department, we found the company that houses the information, we're going to continue and try to get that information as quickly as possible for you. But it may take a number of different attempts before that information ends up coming back. Some trends that you see in the system are certainly with larger employers. They're kind of warehousing their information at a third-party clearinghouse. Maybe you folks have heard of the Work Number, is probably the largest employment clearinghouse out there. Basically, if we're contacting Walmart no longer will do the verification directly themselves, but they'll push us towards a third-party warehouse. And if that information that we submit to the clearinghouse doesn't necessarily match, then you kind of have to go through this dispute process with the clearinghouse, and that can oftentimes slow things down. So questions: how to reduce turnaround times for employment verifications. Simple things like supplying us with good information from the get-go. So obviously everybody understands that there's a million different Starbucks out there and a million different McDonald's and so forth. Having information, at least information like city and state, be provided to us at the time of order, or which branch office. If you can provide a street address, even if you don't know the number, what street was it on. These little nuances really can help speed along the processing of the background, because when we're reaching out to the company to verify the employment, we obviously have to locate and be able to verify or contact that company first. So providing this information to us helps us along in locating that company, and then allowing us to reach out to them and verify the information. We always tell people, don't accept resumes. First of all, resumes are not really a legal document compared to an employment application. Plus, employment applications, whether they're electronic or paper or what have you, they tend to ask for and solicit more information regarding employers or education and things of that nature. So if you are allowing people to apply using a resume as you get closer to that point of making the offer, or maybe you are made the offer, have them go in and fill out an official application, and don't let them turn in an application that says for other than their name, see resume, because that just will shoot yourself in the foot as far as conducting the background checks. Try to ferret out wrong information. So a lot of people will like to list their the well-known corporate name in a particular industry as opposed to a temp company. So they may be working at ABC company, but they're actually working through a temp placement. And when you list ABC company on your application, well, from the get-go, we're going to the wrong place. And then once we get through, the human resource department says, well, no, this person never really worked there, and it's just, you're kind of back to the drawing board. Similar things with recent grads coming out. You particularly see this in the healthcare industry, where nurses will list clinical rotations as their employments, just to kind of build up their, pad their experience, so to speak. But when it comes to doing the background checks, it really can help, or it can hinder the background, because again, they didn't actually work there. It was just part of their curriculum through their school. And again, also in the healthcare agency is traveling nurses. The nurses will say, well, I worked at ABC health system, and they're actually working for a traveling nurse agency. So if at all possible, if you can talk to your recruiters or whomever has that personal interaction with your candidates, and try to ferret that information out, and then make note of it, so that when you go to make your background order, you're able to provide that information correctly from the get-go. Educations, again, the similar type of situation for education verifications. The process obviously is very similar to employers, where we're literally having to reach out to different educational places to verify, whether it be a college or university, trade schools, high schools. We're reaching out to registrar's offices or record offices and validating information that a person has put on their application. We see the same trends that we see in the employment arena, where a lot of schools have realized that they can ship all their records out to a third-party clearinghouse, and it creates, it can help. Let's face it, if it comes back, it's in the clearinghouse, comes back quick. We're not having to catch somebody in person at the registrar's office. The causes of delays might be if there's that discrepancy between what somebody has claimed and what somebody or what that third-party clearinghouse has. It can cause delays there. Reducing turnaround times as it relates to education verifications. Certainly, people that are filling out their applications, for whatever reason, some people feel as though a GED has some sort of stigma, and when they're asked the question, did you graduate from high school, they'll check yes, and they'll list, ABC High School, when in reality they attended there, never graduated, ended up receiving their GED maybe a year later, or whatever the case may be. But when we're going out and reaching out to ABC High School, we have the same situation as we did back with the employment verifications. GED information is housed at a completely different office compared to individual high schools, which have all their own individual records departments. Supplying complete information. Everybody's familiar with the University of California. It's a huge system as far as universities out in California, but there is no central registrar. So we need to know if the person went to UC Davis or Berkeley or San Francisco or any of them. If we don't have that information and it's given to us with that generic University of California, right from the start, we're kind of hitting a wall and having to reach back out either to you or your candidate. Providing information such as name attended under. Most high schools still today house all their information by, alphabetically by the year that you graduated and the name that you attended under. So years later, as people may get married and they have other names, if that maiden name isn't provided, it can cause delays in trying to process the verification. The year of graduation, obviously, if you're doing pre-auth or backgrounds, it becomes difficult to ask for year of graduation. And I think, most people nowadays kind of do post-auth or background checks anyways. So if you're able to get that year of graduation, particularly with high schools, that certainly is helpful. And then as we get into reference interviews, such as supervisors or professional references, obvious things, provide us with names of people that are going to be acceptable for your particular program. So I know you don't always have control over what candidates are placing on the application initially, but if you're able to review that, and if you see people such as Uncle Joe or so forth, and you're looking for professional reference, you push back on your candidate and get that professional reference listed on there. And then the name or the information regarding the reference, obviously name and phone is very important. But nowadays, if you can provide an email address as well, it really helps. I mean, there's a whole company that their whole business is, skill survey is doing references, and the whole thing is based off of email addresses. So it certainly helps us if we have that email as another angle that we could approach somebody and try to get that reference interview conducted. Also, if you can have your candidates give their references a heads up. It seems so obvious to us as I sit here and say that to you, but you don't know how many times we're trying to call, and again, people are leery of strangers calling them, and even if we're identifying ourselves as a representative of such and such client or on behalf of such and such candidate, people are just a little bit skeptical these days. So give their references a heads up that hey, I'm using you as a reference. If you get a call, please reply to it quickly, and hopefully that will be the case. So just some general information. I mean, I know most of what we covered here today in the last half an hour or so is just kind of common sense. I mean, information out, information in, information out. So, the better the information that you're able to provide at the time of order the quicker and better the background check is going to be in general. So make sure you're reviewing that application or that ATS system, and you have good complete information at the time of order. Use the tools that corporate screening makes available to you through our ease site. So there's a number of different ordering options, and there's still really a ton of clients that order via old-fashioned fax, so to speak, quote quote. Things like online order. If you're just doing a simple criminal record search, there's really no reason for you just to throw something on a piece of paper on a fax and fax it over. It probably cuts your time in half if you logged onto the system and you typed in the same information that you're writing down on a piece of paper, and you just type it in and you send it over. Gives you the availability to select criminal record searches on the fly. I mean, it really can help reduce your overall turnaround time. And I know that that old-fashioned fax can be a real frustration point. Sometimes they just don't go through, or there's a partial fax that goes through. So you throw that fax machine away as far as ordering goes, and jump on the ease site and those tools. We have an invite order, which actually takes all of the data entry aspect out of your hands, and our system will reach out directly to your candidates and just solicit the information needed to conduct a background directly from them. That is a order option that is turned on or turned off, so if you don't see the invite order and you'd like to take advantage of that, please feel free to reach out to our customer service desk at 800-229-8606 and then option 4, and they'll put you in contact with the account manager if necessary, or simply just turn on the invite order for you. And if you're still, if you have your old paper applications and you want a different option compared to faxing, certainly the upload option is a good one for you to look at. Use those tools such as real-time viewing and the secure messaging system that the ease site makes available. In the coming months, we're actually looking to roll out a number of different features that'll even enhance your power, if you will, even more so than you have today. Setting expectations for both your candidates and your hiring managers. If you're telling your candidates that corporate screening is our provider, and they may be reaching out to you. If they reach out, please respond to them in a timely manner. It's important information, and you tell them it could cause their start date to be delayed. Contacting the references, as I said before, it seems pretty common sense to do that, but a lot of people don't think to do it. So if you remind them to, it really helps out the process. And then just pushing back if you see that incomplete employment application, pushing back and having them complete it more thoroughly. And then your hiring managers, I know, listen, the majority of backgrounds come back pretty quick, but what ends up happening is your hiring managers become accustomed to getting those quick turnarounds, and then all of a sudden, whammo, you have a candidate from New Hampshire, and New Hampshire courts can take weeks to get information back. So, you kind of set those expectations to hiring managers and make sure that they're building in time that should allow for those delays, and in fact, inevitably will happen. I mean, there's just too many obstacles in our industry that can have the opportunities for delays. So that kind of concludes all of the different points, or more common points that are of reasons why backgrounds can be delayed. Sarah, were there any questions that maybe were thrown at you?
Yep. First of all, I just want to say thanks, Tom, and I want to thank everyone who was attending the webinar. And I wanted to throw out as a reminder, if you do have any questions about any of the topics that were covered in today's webinar, just go ahead and type your question into the question box and we'll get to them. A little bit of housekeeping real quick before the questions. Wanted to let you know that everyone who's been on this webinar is going to receive a follow-up email message that contains a link to the slides from today's presentation. And we're also going to send you a link to a handout that's called Helpful Hints for Faster Results and Quality Reports. I'll also have a copy of today's webinar posted by the end of the week on our website in the resources section. So you can look for it there if you'd like to see it. You can contact Tom directly if you have any questions for him. His contact information is on the slide, and his email is tturner@corporatescreening.com, or you can call him at 800-229-8606, and his extension is 414. I do have a few questions to go over. One of the questions that I have is talking about Social Security numbers, and are they necessary for conducting a background?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, and there's often a misconception out in the public as to how criminal record searches or background checks are conducted in general. And when we inform people that you know, really, other than fingerprinting, really background searches are initiated by name, they're really kind of shocked. But the fact of the matter is that's how our criminal justice system indexes information, and because most of those, well, certainly all the courts are public information, Social Security numbers have been truncated and removed altogether in most parts of the country. So yeah, it's very important to be used as a tool to find where people have lived through the Social Security number trace. Not necessarily as important when conducting the actual criminal record search itself, but the Social Security number trace, which is that name and address history, you know, is a good piece to put in place with your overall program.
Thanks. I've got a couple of questions about criminal background screening. In rural counties that aren't automated, does the government worker look up the records, or is it someone hired by corporate screening?
So it varies. I mean, we prefer to have the entire search process be within our control. So if we're able to get into certain courts directly from our office, then we are doing so. We want to make sure that that avenue is exactly as if we're walking into the court, so we don't want to sacrifice any integrity of the information. So we have a strict vetting process to make sure that any access that we use from our offices are exactly the same as walking in. Other courts, as I mentioned, you know, they allow us or our searcher to go up to a public terminal and conduct at least an initial name search, or sometimes a more complete overall search of when there are name matches. They have all the identifiers on that terminal to include or exclude your candidates. Some allow you to do that initial search, and if there are name matches, you have to write those case numbers down and take them back to the clerk behind the counter and have them pull the folder. And then there's still another option of there's no public index at all, and you're literally submitting your request to the clerk. The entire search process is out of your control, and those are conducted by the clerks themselves. New Hampshire is a good example of the latter. So our people are, you know, at the mercy of literally the clerks from the get-go, and you know, it's not necessarily rural. It's just how information. There's a lot of counties in California that just seem, for being in, you know, Silicon Valley, that just seem like they're in a third world sometimes as far as how they make information available.
The other question that we have regarding criminal backgrounds is, why are counties listed for employees when the employee never lived in the county?
Well, the Social Security number trace, again, so it's the social trace in and of itself gives no criminal history information at all. It's simply it's a tool, it's an investigative tool to help identify where a person has used their Social Security number and maybe the name associated during the time it was being used in a particular place. So that information might come from credit header information. So anytime people apply for a car loan or lease an apartment or apply for a credit card, any of those access to credit opportunities that we all have, public utility information, water and electric, maybe newspaper, magazine subscriptions, things of those nature. Anytime any of us walk into a place and that place asks us, what is your name and address and social? As soon as we turn around and walk out, that place is typically selling our information to data brokers, and they will index, the data brokers will index our name and our address according to our social and then resell it. So if you looked at my Social Security trace, you're going to see an address for corporate screening because, maybe I have a credit card that actually gets billed to the office. Maybe I have professional association subscriptions, address for. So there's a lot of different resources, and we have intermingling credits. Sometimes that those credit header informations, and credit, the lines of who's who as far as credit is concerned gets blurred a little bit. So there's a number of different reasons how a county can show up if somebody hasn't necessarily lived there. It's just the social trace doesn't come from Social Security Administration, but it's more of an aggregate of just a ton of different sources out there.
Thank you. Got a few more questions, Tom. I've got somebody who is manually uploading the background check information and wanted to clarify, would you rather have the application uploaded as opposed to the resume?
Application, hands down. For a number of different reasons, most of which goes back to what we talked about earlier. The application, it just solicits more information regarding employers and references and your supervisors and education. It just is much better than a resume. A lot of times people will craft their resume and almost intentionally leave out employers because maybe they job jumped a lot and they want to show, hey, I have 10 years experience, and they may focus on the experience of 10 different jobs or 10 different employers, but they list this experience-based resume. So hands down, the employment application is the way to go. Besides which, it's better for you because those employment applications have those, typically have those attestation statements at the end that says, yes, I'm swearing to you that the information on this form is true and accurate, where resumes are frankly just an advertisement for the person themselves.
Thanks. A question about the bridge. Can you talk more about it? The person doesn't believe that they use it, and they're curious to see if it's something that they would like to use.
Yeah, so at the time of order, the bridge is actually a multifunctional tool that we created a while ago. But at the time of order, it would really be applied to most folks that aren't using any kind of applicant tracking integration. The invite order would be the time to use the bridge. And really all you need to do is you click on that invite order option. You're typing in the person's name and email address, selecting the package or the search verification elements that you need to be conducted, and then our system reaches out to them and solicits the information needed to conduct the background that you're ordering. It's a little bit different than an application because it's not requiring them to fill out any additional information that is not going to be needed based on the background that you ordered. So as far as candidate experience goes, it can help to reduce the amount of information that they need to supply as opposed to a full employment application. Regarding an integration, we really, if the clients on the phone are not utilizing an applicant tracking integration, I urge you to give us a call because we have just tons of different integrations out there, and chances are if you're using an electronic application or ATS or whatever you want to call it, chances are we're already integrated. If not, certainly we can tie together. It's pretty easy to do these days. So if you're not using an integration, reach out and see if we have one that we can connect you with. And then if you are using an integration that doesn't utilize the candidate bridge, by all means, reach out to us again, because by nature, applicant tracking systems, they're designed to allow talent to flow through, which is great for you and getting a large pool of people to choose from. But when you get to the point of ordering a background, because it allows people to flow through so easily, it doesn't necessarily ask them for the pertinent fields or require the pertinent fields that are needed to process a background in a timely manner. So if you're not utilizing our bridge, you end up sending us an order that doesn't always have, the city and state for an employer or the campus for a particular school. What our bridge does is it takes all of that applicant tracking information, it populates these templates, and if there's any information that's missing, it can reach out to your candidates. Again, it's only presenting the templates that are missing information, so it wouldn't be that they're refilling out their application by any means, or they're really only getting those employers or schools that they've missed or skipped information for, and they would only need to fill out just that field that was empty, as opposed to refilling out the whole employment or education template. Besides which, it has a mouse signature or a finger signature release form, a finger signature on the mobile device, and we can reproduce that and provide it to schools or employers that are asking us for signed releases when we're doing different types of verifications. So it's a great tool. If you're not taking advantage, I do encourage people to reach out, and certainly we can turn it on for you, and whichever means what fits.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-up on that from the same person. Do you feel that the bridge turnaround time is faster than uploads?
Yeah, well, it does, I would say, because we know that we're collecting the information needed to process a background in a timely manner, compared to if you're uploading a paper application. People can leave fields empty on a paper app or even electronic application, as I mentioned before with the ATS. So providing us with that information in a complete form, it certainly does help. And then of course, I don't know if they're uploading the signed release as part of their order as well, but if they're not, that signed release a mouse signature piece, becomes very important too.
I've got a question regarding GED verification. What can they ask of the applicants to help speed up the process? It appears to be that there's a longer turnaround time with them, and they threw out that New Jersey GEDs are automated. They thought, so perhaps that helps speed up the verification. Is there any suggestions that you have, Tom?
Yeah, New Jersey actually is an interesting place. They used to be able to do the verifications pretty easily, if you will, if you had a name in the social. But now the New Jersey GED office is requiring the GED number, which is a unique number that the person gets when they obtain their GED. Which seems kind of crazy that the GED office would be asking for that. But ultimately, they're the keepers of the information, and they can set up whatever rules or barriers, frankly, that they see fit. So yes, for all of the New Jersey folks that are on the phone, if you could, whatever means you're collecting the information regarding high school or GED, if somebody checks off the GED option, have that follow-up that says, we're going to need your GED number. because that's the only way you can get them nowadays. There used to be other ways, but they've kind of shut those valves off.
A couple more questions, Tom. What would cause a criminal conviction not to show up on a background check?
Well, that's probably a conversation we could have for a whole nother hour, but the no criminal record search program is going to be 100%. I know everybody thinks that fingerprinting is this end-all be-all, but fingerprinting really is as incomplete as any other process when I say that. But when you're searching court records, if you're searching that particular court where the person has been convicted, it's gonna show up. Now, sometimes there's sometimes there's laws that limit the information that can be reported based on salaries, salary restrictions or time limits. So that could be a reason. Maybe the conviction resides in a place where you're not searching. So if somebody never established residency in a place and it doesn't show up on the SOCIATRACE, you may not be searching court records there. Even if you're doing the national databases that are out there or fingerprinting, and the FBI is certainly a national database. Databases only have information that's been reported to the database. So it's not like our criminal justice system has one central intranet like all of our companies do. There's no central intranet where everything is networked together. So there's a ton of different reasons that something may not show up on a report. I think what is important is that corporate screening and our clients work together as a partner. And if you're asking on your application, as long as you don't have banned a box, or if you're asking post offer, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And somebody checks yes, supply that answer to us. In this way, if we're going through your normal search protocol and we don't see it show up through your normal search protocol, we can kind of question and say, boy, this person is claiming a record, but it didn't show up. And then we can work together in trying to find out, where that record may reside.
Thanks, Tom. I've got one last question. Do applicants receive an email once a case is started? The person who asked this is trying to find a way to introduce corporate screening to the applicant early on, as you suggested. And maybe you can suggest some other ways that they can introduce them to corporate screening.
Yeah, so again, it's maybe that person can call into the office and we can address the question more on a specific level. So it does matter how you're ordering and if you're using the bridge or the invite order, or are you ordering through an applicant tracking system. But the general answer is when a background is truly kicked off, which means it's being processed in our operations group, the candidate wouldn't necessarily receive an email. However, prior to that, and if you're using the bridge, they would receive an email, and that bridge is designed to collect any additional or missing information that's going to be needed to process the background, which will be forthcoming. So it's whoever asks that, please feel free, or I can reach out. I can get the name, I think, from Sarah afterwards, and reach out after the webinar.
Yeah, I actually just sent that information that I shared this person's information.
Okay. Great.
That was the final question. I wanted to wrap up the webinar. Once again, thanking you, Tom, for your time and for the information that you shared. And once again, thanking everyone who was on the webinar. Once again, I will be sending out a follow-up email that will give you information, links to the presentation that you'll be able to download, as well as helpful hints. And then we'll also have a recording of the webinar, which will be up later on this week in the resources section of our website. So once again, thank you very much, and we appreciate all of your interest. Thank you.